Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to the Bible Unveiled Part 11, where we're going to continue off from last time. The link to the website will be in the description below if you want to read past me. Today there's not going to be a book reading, it's going to be the Bible Unveiled, and tomorrow um, I'll start chapter 12, I think it is. I think I did chapter 11 yesterday. So let's go ahead and get into this. The following is for research purposes. Alright, so here we go. This is where we left off. So we're at the city of Dan, chronological and history of Baal Pan worship. Okay, so in Deuteronomy, we got, and of Dan, he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan. And the coast of the children of Dan went out a little for them. Therefore the children of Dan went up to fight against Leshem, and took it, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt therein, and called Leshem Dan after the name of Dan their father. There is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Dan according to their families. These cities with their villages, Joshua. This is in Joshua chapter 19, verses 47 and 48. And they call the city of Dan after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel. Howbeit the name of the city is Laish at the first. Judges 18:29. Come with me from Lebanon, my spouse, with me from Lebanon, took from the top of Amana, from the top of Shinir and Hermon, from the lion's dens, from the mountains of the leopards. Song of Solomon 4, verse 8. It was first a Canaanite sanctuary for the worship of Baal, perhaps Baal Hermon, and Judges chapter 3 and 1 Chronicles chapter 5. It was called by the Greeks Panias because of its cavern, dedicated to the worship of the god of the worship of the god Pan. Alrighty. So now we got Dan around the year 1406 BC, or 1406. And the coast of the children of Dan went out. Okay, I read that from above. Okay, so that's okay. Penias was called by the Jews Dan, or Mizvar Dan, Fort of Dan. The Encyclopedia of Judaica. Alright, Dan Jan may indicate involvement in Pan worship. Then they came to Gilead and to the land of no idea how to pronounce that word. I'm not even gonna try. We'll call it to the land of T. And they came to Danjan and about to Zidon. 2 Samuel chapter 24 verse 6. The Hebrew Dan Dan played a pipe indicates that it was a suburb of Dan. Okay, so there's a source for that. Peneus. Later the Greeks built a shrine to Pan, the god of nature, and called the place Peneus. Okay, Thompson. The place had been named Peneus for it served as their favorite seat of Pan, a Greek fertility god. The gods all gave him the name Pan, meaning all things, because he is a universal tendency incarnate. He was the god of all things, doubtless indicative of the procreative current charging all things, all gods, and or all life. And there's a source for that. One of the main sources of the Jordan rises in the grotto of Pan. Okay. The Jordan River that weaves like a snake along the eastern border of the land of Israel is named after the ancient tribe of Dan. Jordan means the going down of the Dan. Oh, so is Dan Pan? Is that what they're hinting at here? Sisera, Philippi, or Caesarea, well, whatever. Philippi, 4th century BCE. In 4 BC, this area became a tetrarchy of Herod's son Philippus, who refounded Peneus as Caesarea Philippi. Interesting. A remarkable monument which has seen all the periods of history of Caesarea Philippi is the vast castle above the site of the city, built in the Syro-Greek or even Phoenician times, and after receiving additions from the Saracens and Franks, is still the most remarkable fortress in the Holy Land. Okay. From the 2nd century, the city was called Caesarea Peneus. Singer, Jewish Encyclopedia. And you look it up in that. Okay. Neronius. In 61 AD, Caesarea Philippi was renamed Neronius. Okay. Agrippa II called the city Neronius as it proved from the city's coins. Okay. Caesarea Peneus from the 2nd century. The city is called Caesarea Peneus. Okay. Peneus from the 4th to the 13th century AD. Peneus then again asserts itself with Caesarea, and finally Caesarea disappears. Peneus takes permanent position from the Arabic form of Banaeus, for the Arabs have no P. Interesting. Under the simple name of Peneus, it was the seat of the Greek bishopric in the period of the great councils, and a Latin bishopric during the Crusades. Okay. Bellanius, Bell. During the Crusades, it was called Bellanias. Okay. The in, a suffix of adjectives of Greek or Latin origin, meaning of or pertaining to, of the nature, made of. Okay. Mount Hermon, and the Amorites forced the children of Dan into the mountain, for they would not suffer them to come down to the valley. Judges 1:34. The name Hermon, since Hermon represents Ham, then Pan represents his son Canaan. Interesting. Hermon means forbidden place. Okay. The interpretation of Hermon is anathema. Hermes, name is Greek. The later Greek-speaking people did not know the name that the pre-Hellenic inhabitants had given to the god of these stone heaps, and the name was doubtless without from them. Therefore, they could only refer to him as Hermes for their word for stone heap. In the Laconian dialect, he was known as Hermon, he of the stone heap. Okay. On one of its three secondary peaks, there are ruins of a circular wall within which lies a heap of hewn stone, said to be the remnants of a Syrian altar, possibly in honor of Baal. Though Hermes was the biblical Ham, deriving from the word Herma, which relates to the pile of stones. So would Ham then be considered maybe the builder of the pyramids? The Greeks called him Mercury. Hermes, Pan, the god of shepherds, was the son of Mercury. Interesting. Okay, so the pre-flood Mount Hermon. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto him, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Genesis verse 6 through verses 1 to 2. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. It is not in Rabbath of the children of Ammon. 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. Deuteronomy. Now, these are the kings of the land, which the children of Israel smote, and possessed their land on the side Jordan, of the other side Jordan, toward the rising of the sun, from the river Arnon unto Mount Hermon, and all the plain on the east, and the coast of Og, king of Bashan, which was of the remnant of the giants that dwelt at Ashtaroth and at Idri, and reigned in Mount Hermon, and in Salca, and in all Bashan, unto the border of Geshurites, and the Mancathites, and half Gilead, the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Um, that's in Joshua, and I have no idea if I pronounced any of that right. Um, Legends anterior to Gnosticism attributed a sacred character to Mount Hermon, the supposed residence of the children of Seth at the beginning of human existence. The Valentinians regarded Seth's sons to be the sons of God, who, upon Mount Hermon, led a pious and secluded life, cherishing the nostalgia for paradise. Interesting. Hittite and biblical records support the use of Hermon as a dwelling place of gods. Ritual, which this is also kind of like related to the Greeks, where they had their mountain. It's interesting that that kind of follows. Ritual centers were located at the foot of Hermon, Baal Gad, and the Valley of Lebanon under Mount Hermon and Baal Hermon. We have, that's from Friedman. We have read in a certain apocryphal book, Enoch 6-5-8, that when the sons of God were coming down to the daughters of men, they descended upon Mount Hermon. Okay. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw them and desired them, handsome and beautiful daughters, and they descended into Ardos, which is the summit of Hermon. Alright. Getting interesting. Where are we? Alright. So the post-flood. From the ancient times, the mountains was a worship place where the god Hermon, perhaps called Baal Hermon, was venerated. More than 20 temples have been surveyed on Mount Hermon and its environs. This is an unprecedented number in comparison with other regions of the Phoenician coast. Interesting. Why is Mount Hermon so important, and is it named after Hermes? Or, is Hermes related to that? Okay, so, anyways, let's go to consider the symbols. A, the bee, Samson. Okay. And after a time he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion, and he took thereof in his hands, and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told them not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. Judges 14, verse 8-9, and Judges 14, verse 14. The Merovingians. Be wise as serpents revealed how all the heads, presidents of the LDS and RLDS Mormons have been descendants of the Merovingian dynasty. That's interesting. And they and the Masons have both used the Merovingian symbol, the bee, Springmeyer, page 80. So the Merovingian symbol is the bee. Okay? I'm going to take note of that. The serpent, the tribe of Dan. Dan shall be a serpent, by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse's heel, so that his rider shall fall backward. Genesis 49:17. The elders of Sion of the 33rd degree, the text of the protocols of the elders of Sion end with a single statement, signed by the representatives of Sion of the 33rd degree. The symbolic snake by which we symbolize our people. Protocols of Sion. Interesting. Okay, the unicorn. Alright, so Mount Hermon and Syrian. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 8 through 9. The voice of the Lord breaketh the cedars. Yeah, the Lord breaketh the cedars of Lebanon. He maketh them also to skip like a calf. Lebanon and Syrian like a young unicorn. Psalms 29 verses 5 and 6. Christ's enemies. Many bulls have compassed me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round. They gape upon me with their mouths as a ravening or a roaring lion. Save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of the unicorns. Psalms chapter 22, verses 12, 13, and 21. The House of Stuart. Scotland's royal House of Stuart arose from a marital union of the hereditary lines of Jesus and his brother James, springing from the Merovingians' own source on the one hand, and from the Celtic kings of Britain on the other. The Stuarts emerged, therefore, as a truly unique Grail dynasty, and have long been known as the House of Unicorns. Interesting. Along with the David Lion of Judah and the Franco-Judaic Fleur de Lis. I don't know if I pronounced that right. The Despotic unicorn was incorporated in the royal arms of Scotland. Interesting. Okay, so let's see if where are we at here? We're gonna go into this next one. Yeah. Okay. We're going to about 30-ish minutes, so we're gonna do D, the lion. The tribe of Dan. And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan. Deuteronomy chapter 13. And after a time, Samson returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of honey and bees. We read that part. Okay, Christ's enemies. We talked about that up there. Mount Hermon. We talked about that up there. Okay, back to the House of Stuart. No, we talked about that. I guess I went over that. Okay, so the eagle. Alright. The tribe of Dan. Dan's position in the journey was on the north of the tabernacle with Asher and Naphtali. The standard of the tribe was of white and red, and the crest upon it an eagle. Jacob had compared Dan to a serpent. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's interesting about this. Like, okay, so we're talking about Dan, and we're talking about the eagle and the serpent. That echoes Scorpio, okay? Because Scorpio symbols the eagle and, the serpent as well. Because, there was a snake that was at one time. Like, it depends on where you're at in evolving on the Scorpio, but I just think that's interesting. I'm pretty sure that a snake, yeah, I think a snake is also related to Scorpio. Um, okay, anyway. So we got, I'm just gonna call him A because I don't want to pronounce that. Substituted the eagle, the destroyer of serpents, as he shrank from carrying an adder upon his flag. Freemasonry. Priest, after the order of Melchizedek, were the immortals to whom the term phoenix was applied, and their symbol was the mysterious two-headed bird now called an eagle, a familiar and little misunderstood Masonic symbol. See, and even the phoenix is associated with Scorpio. So, uh, so they're basically relating Dan to the tribe of Scorpio, death and rebirth. Right there. Interesting. Um, the two-headed eagle is usually depicted in two colors of great mystical significance, red and white. Okay. The fish may be a symbol of the portion of tribe of Dan which continued to live in the Mediterranean coastal territory. The relevant sea lord was King Pallas, whose symbol was a fish. The fish was an emblem of the Merovingian, um, along with the Lion of Judah. Okay, Lion, Judah would be Leo. Merovingian, fish, Pisces. I'm just seeing if there's any astrological meaning to any of this, or like, man, also just, um, thinking about like tribes and seeing if it relates in any way astrologically, because I think astrology tells a story that they've tried to hidden. Like, I don't mean like, I just mean like the symbols and the things that astrology represents. I think that there's an underlying story there within each zodiac sign that's really hidden. And I think it also relates to all the religions. Like maybe astrology was the first religion or something like that, and then everything else kind of like derived from that. I don't know. All right, but I think we're gonna stop there, and then we're gonna go into consider the sin. Um, so so we'll be at part 5 on the next time, I think. Yeah, making sure this is where I want to stop, maybe. Yeah, I want to stop here. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes. So, we mostly went over symbols and more of, whatever, this, consider the locations. So, locations and symbols, were what we went over, and, okay, so thinking about, we got out of this, I said Scorpio was 1, and then Pisces, and then Leo for the lion, which is 2 waters and a fire, which is kind of interesting. Alright. So, that's where we'll be the next time. I'll leave this link in the description. If you want to read the rest of the article. But other than that, tomorrow I'll continue the novel reading, and then next Monday it's building the future. We'll be doing another one of those, and I think on that one I should be getting into the whole thing about Jupiter and the electric bolt that's coming up, possibly. So, I hope you all enjoyed this. A lot of interesting information in that one, especially evolving around the secret societies. But other than that, it is time for me to jingle, and I will see you all tomorrow because I'll be reading. And this has been Who the Fuck is the Antichrist production? Alright, see you all tomorrow.